Hi, my name's Kelly. I work for names.co.uk and I look after our domain name product. Basically, I'm the domain name geek. Now, our guys have asked me to try and explain to you a little bit about this new domain name explosion that's happening as we speak, more commonly known as the new gTLD program. So in order for me to give you an idea of how we got to where we are today, I need to actually take you back to a number of years ago. The discussion of whether we actually needed more domain name extensions started in earnest back in 2005. And it was started by ICANN, who is the Internet Corporation of Assigned Names and Numbers, which is a bit of a mouthful. Perhaps a good place to start is to just explain who ICANN is. So ICANN is the organisation that is in place to ensure our internet remains stable and secure. But another part of its remit is to ensure that it promotes choice and competition and innovation. We want the internet to grow and continue and thrive. So back in 2005, they started a policy discussion on whether we should introduce loads of new domain name extensions. Now, in those discussions, there were representatives from all areas of the internet community. So, people that buy domain names, the registrants, do have a voice and did have a voice in this process. They are represented by people in the business constituency and even the intellectual property community for the brands out there on the internet. We, as a registrar, someone who facilitates so that you can buy domain names from, also had a voice in this policy process. And the registries, the people that actually run the current domain name extensions, also had a voice. Now, obviously with so many parties involved, it took quite a long time to get to a stage where the rules were decided, and we ended up in June 2011 with a guidebook on how you would apply for your own new gTLD. Now, this was the guidebook. I've read it from start to finish. Now, don't get me wrong. Not just anyone could apply to run their own domain name extension. There were a lot of rules in place. Firstly, all applicants, you'd be very pleased to know, were background checked. They needed to be in good standing. Naturally, they also needed to have a lot of money. Every new gTLD, new domain name extension that was applied for, their application fee alone was $185,000 US. In addition to that, as part of their application, they also needed to supply to ICANN a letter of credit from a bank to ensure that, obviously, once this new domain name extension launches, the applicants had secure funds and financial stability to last. It went further. Obviously, money's not everything. You also had to have the technical capability and the infrastructure to be able to run your own domain name extension. Now, the application window for people to apply for their own gTLD opened on the 12th of January 2012. That seems like such a long time ago now. I actually consulted on an application. I am pleased to say it passed its evaluation, and it will be launching. Now, I think that the biggest date for us and for everyone in the industry was probably after this point, after everyone had started to apply, because obviously it was shrouded with secrecy. No one was saying who was applying, who wasn't. But on the 13th of June 2012 in London, ICANN actually revealed exactly who had applied. They received in total 1,930 separate applications for new domain name extensions, and that was quite a high number. I think it shocked some people. What shocked people even more, I think, was who had made the applications and what they'd applied for. I think the biggest shock for me personally, and I know for my colleagues, was the number of brands that had applied, and brands that had applied to own their own domain name extension exclusively for their own use, and to apply for words that didn't match their brand but matched the sector that they operated in. So the most famous ones would be the initial L'Oreal application for .makeup, .beauty. They did also apply for .L'Oreal, but they have since withdrawn the L'Oreal application. And you know, I think the reveal day was very important for all of us, because it made it more real. We knew for the first time, this is what one day we will see live, or may see live, in the internet. Now, obviously, ICANN had received nearly 2,000 applications, and the next stage in the process was ICANN needed to try and decide in which order to deal with these applications. You know, a lot of the applicants wanted to be first to market. Now, the way ICANN did it, ICANN is nothing but unusual sometimes, is they decided to hold a lottery draw. They called it a prioritization draw. Every applicant had to go and buy a raffle ticket in person. Although they could designate someone to go and buy this raffle ticket, they held the raffle in Los Angeles, and on the 17th of December 2012, they actually pulled out the raffle tickets one by one to try and decide which order the applicants would go first. I remember the day very well, with the time difference. The priority draw started in the evening in UK time. I actually fell asleep. This is quite sad. I fell asleep listening to the priority draw to see who was coming first, and I woke up the next morning and the priority draw was still happening, which was particularly entertaining. Now, since that stage, there's been a lot of other key events. I think a big date was March the 26th of this year. That is when something called Trademark Clearinghouse opened. Now, Trademark Clearinghouse is going to take a little bit of an explanation, but in simple terms, every new domain name that launches has to hold a period, they call it sunrise, and we'll go into more detail in a later stage, in which brand owners, trademark owners, have the opportunity to try and secure domain names that match their trademark. Now, every new gTLD has to run this phase first. Now, traditionally, in previous launches, so xxx.asia, what happened is the actual domain name extension would pick a partner, a trademark validation firm or agent, to check in this first phase that so the trademark owner could pay to have their trademark validated and then go on to register the domain name. All very well when you're only launching one new extension within a 1-2 year period, but considering ICANN plans to launch hundreds of new domain name extensions that that some brands will need to register domain names in various of these. For a brand or trademark owner to pay every time would be hugely expensive. So as part of the rights protection that ICANN had to ensure to the intellectual property community, Trademark Clearinghouse was developed so trademark owners pay once to have their trademark validated, and they can pay to have it last for a year or 2 years or longer, and that validation will help them secure early registrations in these new domain name extensions where they meet the restriction criteria. Now, I think the next key date was probably the first new gTLD contract being signed. That was actually signed on the 14th of July 2013, and it was actually signed by what's called an IDN, an internationalized domain name. So it is the word games in Chinese characters. Now, the 21st of October, so very recently, the first four domain name extensions from ICANN's new gTLD program were actually cleared from testing, from final testing, and put live in IANA. So, and that's a major point in this whole program, because for the first time, these new domain name extensions that we've all been talking about and we've known about since the reveal day in June 2012, the first of these extensions have actually been put live in the internet. They're not available to register yet. Obviously, they've just done their final testing. The applicants that have got to that stage will need to decide, okay, when are we going to start taking Sunrise applications? Will we want to do a marketing program first? Will we want to reach out to the community to make them aware? Or will we start straight away? There's already the tentative timescales of first to launch. Donuts, who was the single biggest applicant of new gTLDs, they applied for hundreds. They have signed over half of the contracts to date that have been signed by new gTLDs and ICANN, and I think they're pretty determined to be amongst the first to launch. So we're looking at tentative estimates, subject to change, as they keep telling me, of end of October, beginning of November, to take first applications for Sunrise registrations. They will probably be available for normal registration in the internet sometime mid-January. And it's definitely going to be an exciting time. One of our biggest challenges is obviously to make sure that our customers are informed of what's happening, but not overwhelmed. We will tell you when we have accurate dates of what is launching and when. So you can make an informed decision as to whether that domain name extension is important to your business, and are you able to register it, and do you have the budget to fit this into your domain name portfolio. So it's definitely going to be a little chaotic, I'm not going to lie. It's unprecedented. This is the biggest change the internet's ever seen. We are going from launching 1 to a few extensions every year, every other year, to potentially 10 a week, 100 in a couple of months. So now more than ever, keep up to date with what's happening on our blog articles and our newsletters. Follow us on Twitter and join us on Facebook. And we will endeavour to give you accurate information of what is launching and when, so you can make informed decisions. So we'll be covering a few other topics over the coming weeks. If there's anything in particular that you want to be aware of, get in touch. Okay, thank you for watching. Bye for now.